After years of silence, Joni Lamb's nephew finally spoke out Sunday night. Things that only the Lamb family knew are coming to light. His startling revelation sheds light on one of the most well-known families in Christian media. Everything will change when Daystar and Joni Lamb receive unexpected news. Don't overlook this amazing statement. Rebecca Lamb was always around her mother, Joni Lamb, in particular. Prior to the death of Marcus Lamb in 2021, things were taking an unexpected turn. The youngest daughter, Rebecca, was generally the first to speak up when she noticed something amiss. This time, the subject was Joni's relationship with Dr. Doug Weiss, a family friend and Christian marriage counselor. Rebecca thought things were going too quickly when she found out her mother was seeing Doug. She was concerned about the timing and pace of the relationship. After Marcus passed away, Rebecca believed her mother wasn't grieving for long enough. Rebecca believed that starting a new relationship so soon after Marcus's passing was detrimental to the family's reputation and mentally dangerous. The Lamb family was devoted to their ministry, particularly through Daystar, and had always been devout and steadfast in their Christian faith. Rebecca was concerned that Joni's new relationship might undermine such principles. She thought that because people couldn't understand how a Christian leader could move on so quickly, they would distrust the leadership of the Lamb family. Doug-related worries weren't the sole reason. Rebecca was concerned that Marcus Lamb's ministry and legacy would be destroyed by her mother's activities. When Joni began dating Doug, Rebecca tried to be calm and honest about her fears. She wanted Joni to understand the repercussions of her behavior rather than giving her mother instructions. Rebecca shared her worries with Joni so they could talk about them. Joni's statement did not sit well with Rebecca. Joni came out as defensive and indifferent to her daughter's emotions. Joni was clearly not going to change her mind. Their relationship was strained because Rebecca felt ignored and her relationship worries were not taken seriously. Rebecca had to say something. Even though it was difficult, she spoke what she thought. Mother and daughter grew increasingly irate as their relationship changed. Rebecca was troubled by the relationship and how it affected her family's business. As the family made less decisions together, Joni began to make more decisions on her own. Not just Doug, but Rebecca was anxious about this change of authority. Rebecca thought that Daystar's future and their family's honor were on the line. Joni appeared to dig in her heels despite Rebecca's frequent outbursts. Their mental gap grew as a result. For months, Joni and Rebecca's problems grew worse as Rebecca expressed worries about her mother's connection to Doug Weiss. A brawl had broken out from what had begun as a hazy suspicion that things wasn't quite right. Rebecca is the youngest daughter of Joni and Marcus Lamb. She has always voiced her opinions, and she didn't change her mind about this subject. One evening in May 2023, just before Joni and Doug's wedding, this came to a head. At last, Rebecca had the conversation she kind of wanted and feared. Nobody anticipated that, and there was no quiet moment to talk about it. Rather, a private argument unexpectedly and emotionally caught both mother and daughter off guard. Rebecca had made multiple attempts to comfort her mother by talking to her. She was worried that Joni was attempting to replace Marcus too quickly and that she wouldn't have time to mourn. She was usually ignored by Joni. A quick rejection, a change of topic, or a hushed "you don't understand" might have been the beginning, but Rebecca could tell Joni wasn't paying attention. When Joni addressed her daughter's worries, it seemed like a rejection. When Rebecca opened out, Joni became even more reticent. The altercations became increasingly intense and intimate. Rebecca was upset. Joni was enraged. She was afraid that her mother would leave her for a relationship that didn't align with their values. The future of their family, Marcus's legacy, and Rebecca's new connection were all on the line. In May 2023, their argument was about more than just friendship or Doug. It dropped farther. This has to do with their previous intimacy and trust. This is when Rebecca transformed. She was angry at Joni for ignoring her and at the way she was handling the transition, making choices without seeking input from her family or taking into account the emotional toll it was taking on everyone. Rebecca said, "I don't think you're thinking about the consequences of your actions. Everyone counts, not just you." And her words were delivered with sadness and wrath. "It's about our family, the church, and Dad's job." Joni was cold and guarded, saying, "Hey, Rebecca, I just want to move on." "I don't need this," the woman shouted. "Lectures are not necessary." She became red with rage. Rebecca felt horrible on the inside. She didn't expect an easy conversation, but this wasn't what she was expecting. She believed they could discuss it in a calm and reasonable manner because they were family, and it wasn't just about Doug, it was about more. Joni refused to listen or acknowledge Rebecca's feelings. When the conversation deteriorated, Rebecca's rage turned to disappointment because she had always looked up to her mother, who had always been a rock in her life, and Joni seemed more like a stranger than a mother. "You're not thinking straight, Mom," Rebecca said, trembling. Watching you not grieve Dad's passing breaks me. Joni's eyes went red when Marcus passed away. When Rebecca realized how far apart they had gotten, her chest ached. Rebecca, I'm grieving. You can't tell me to grieve. I don't need your approval. It was about a relationship built on love, trust, and respect that was disintegrating more quickly than it was about Doug alone. She wanted her mother to understand, so she gave it another go. Joni turned away and said, enough talking. Even though Rebecca had told her mother, I don't want you to make the same mistakes again. I'm not controlling your life. I don't comprehend. You don't get it. Her mother walked down the hallway while Rebecca stood by herself in their once bright house. After the dispute, Rebecca felt abandoned because of the breakdown of family values, trust, and communication. She had always looked up to her mother and felt that everything she believed to be true about their relationship was incorrect. What began as a quarrel between a mother and daughter had become a painful rift in a family that had once been united in their faith and goal, and the problem between Joni and Rebecca was just one aspect of a larger picture that would worsen over the course of the next few days. People were wondering if this split could ever be healed. After days, the first thing that angered her was her belief that her mother was seeing Doug Weiss. Rebecca had never been quiet when she suspected something was amiss, and she had expressed from the beginning that she didn't like how quickly Joni was moving on after Marcus's death. After Arsi Colmadel Marobte Colbia the old to her Marcus's death. As Rebecca tried to persuade her mother to see what she believed was best for the family, she felt even more alone. When Rebecca confided in Joni about her concerns, Joni never answered in a compassionate or sincere manner. Instead, she became irate and claimed that Rebecca was too emotional and didn't understand what she was saying. Rebecca chose to keep quiet because she was upset and hurt, but Joni's relationship with more than just her mother changed, and the entire family began to dislike her because of her developing relationship with Doug and her new enemy. It felt like every time I tried to talk to Joni, it was ignored. When Rebecca began to argue with Joni and other family members, it became painfully evident that she was not being taken seriously, included in conversations, or involved in important decisions. Her older brother, Jonathan Lamb, was also impacted by the changes in the family. As much as Rebecca tried to distance herself from the arguments and fights, it seemed that the more she did so, the more the Lambs were no longer a cohesive, functional family, and there were rumors that she was withdrawing, that she was no longer involved in family matters, and that her concerns were no longer being heard. Because Joni was unable to see her concerns and was becoming more and more dependent on others, Rebecca felt as though she was losing her mother and the family she had grown up with. She was tense because she felt like she was always on the outside, and she knew that the family's dissolution was not simply a result of differing opinions, but rather of deeper issues, such as how each person's trauma and pain had influenced their decisions. People who used to feel secure in their jobs began to wonder what would happen to the network as a result of the conflict between Joni and Rebecca and Doug's increasing power. Rebecca was hurt and irritated by the family split, but she was able to see things more clearly when she was alone, and she realized that she needed to distance herself from both her family and the church. It was the first step toward reconciliation, reflection, and moving on. But Rebecca knew the road to recovery was not clear, and that the rift in her family would take time to heal. The wounds were still fresh, and there was a great deal of hurt, anger, and deceit. As she coped with her loneliness, Rebecca wondered if the Lamb family would ever be reunited. It was unclear what the future held for Daystar and the family, but Rebecca knew she could not keep quiet any longer. She was able to speak up, find her voice, and stand up for her family and her objective today.